So we're running a bit behind, which is okay. But I'm going to propose that we do two things. One, we'll shorten the panel discussion to 10 minutes. And two, we're going to take Dr. Kelly's advice on stretching, that 3 hours of sedentary time is too much time sitting, and anyone who needs to stretch should stand up and stretch. Put off your camera if you need to, or stretch with all of us. We're happy to see people doing healthy, positive actions. Okay, so I'm just going to bring one of our panel questions to each of you and ask, if you had unlimited resources, what would you do to optimize wellness for the communities you work with? Like, what would be your next step? It can be like a practical small step. It can be a massive big step. I'll leave it to you to think about it. Who would like to go first? Marie-Josée, please.
I say, or I put in the chat?
Oh, please say.
Okay, I would create a day program where people can come for one day or a couple of days a week, and it would be a mix. Because I think, I mean, one of the issues we didn't focus on in our presentation is our pilot interventions highlighted the importance of social contact. So I would have a day program with lots of opportunities for interaction, physical activity, and some meaningful activities, creating something that makes people feel good and feel that they're contributing. And there would be transportation to get there and transportation to come back, and maybe even cooking, healthy cooking.
Awesome. This is a great idea, and it doesn't sound too lofty to me. Other panel members, if you got your check in the mail, what would you do? And all the people to do your work for you, what would you do?
Maybe I can jump in. I think I'm going to put in a what's the word? What I would like to see happen would be actually global engagement of people living with HIV to grapple with exactly the issues we've been talking about. What is quality of life? Because I think we have to, one of the challenges for us is can we buy into a global definition, or are there sufficient differences within Canada, or even within the province, or within demographics within those populations? Can we buy into a common definition of quality of life that can equate, say, to a fortnighty, that everybody in the world, all people living with HIV can relate to?
Donc, et qui pourrait résonner auprès de tous ceux.
Will the African version of quality of life have any bearing on the Ontario rural quality of life? I mean, I'm not going to be stressing things like clean water, for instance, as a quality of life issue, but Africans may well do that. So there are real challenges there. But I think if I had unlimited money, that's what I would like to do, engage in global conversations about this and see what the commonalities are and what they aren't.
That's great, Bob. I just want to reflect what you said back to Pooja, if I can. In your presentation, you talked about there being this fluid concept of well-being, and I think that's a bit of what Bob was saying, is that wellness might not be defined the same way for everybody, or quality of life might not look the same for everybody. And much like Marie-Josée's app showed, like people can define it differently and make their own priorities differently. How do you see that? And if you had your giant check in the mail, what would you do?
Yeah, I'd also like to acknowledge that Ron made a comment in the chat directly about that same concept, that quality of life is individual and it's not the same for everyone. And even for me, it changes on a day-to-day basis, depending on the world. I never thought that I would take someone else wearing a mask as important for my quality of life. But that's what the last year has taught me. If I had a massive check, I don't know if I would make that decision. I think I would take that money and bring together people from the community who have more knowledge on living with HIV than I do. And I would use the money to find out what the community wants and then help them create it. Because I have my ideas, but I'm a physiotherapist who's worked in the sector. I still would like to go to the people who are the experts.
Thank you. Go Jeepa Meepa. Excellent answer. Adria, how about you?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Pooja just said, because that really resonates with me for sure. I think it needs to be an individualized, tailored approach. And maybe it involves offering sort of a menu of options. You know, are you interested in doing a mindfulness intervention or a yoga, or do you want to do a boot camp style class, or do you want to go walk in nature? There are now nature prescriptions available. So maybe that's an option that people might be interested in as well.
Love it. Nature prescriptions. I'm going to write that one down. Kelly, how about you? I'm pretty sure that you have some ideas for that money.
Well, I think one of the things that we found with the CBE study was that the community appreciated linking up with a quote expert, a physical trainer, to help them get them on track and to have that discussion about where their abilities, interests, and goals were, and then could individually tailor. So for many individuals who had been maybe physically active in the past, but had gone through a number of different episodes of health conditions and so on, just didn't know where to start. So I think just maybe even an initial consultation or two. And then from there, I think, and this is from personal experience as well, is that the combination of the physical, but also the social interaction as well. So, I think that there can be something that happens quite organically when you see people just connect and all of a sudden say, hey, let's meet up for a walk, or let's, make sure that we, attend the same group-based class or something like that, which we did start to see a little bit in the study, which was really great to see. So something peer-based, and even personally speaking, I mean, if I know that someone's going to be standing outside in like 20 degree below zero on a corner at 6:30 in the morning, I know that, that's going to get me out of bed. Or whereas if it's just myself, it won't happen.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, I think that takes me back to one of the comments from Krista Shore earlier in the week about culture saving lives and building community, building nations, and social connection being so important. Thank you. We'll just take a couple more minutes to reflect stuff from the chat. I do want to acknowledge Larry's comment that I suspect some people will buy groceries and pay the rent. And so I think we've heard so many times by so many people, a lot of basic needs stuff being obstacles to wellness, which makes perfect sense. And we as a society need to get on top of that. There shouldn't be people who are without water, without enough food or healthy food, who are without shelter. And so those are the basic stuff that we need to get covered. I do want to say or bring up a question from Bob to Kelly that was in the chat about whether there were any older people over 70 years in your intervention, and any comments on engaging people that maybe have difficulty getting out or have mobility issues in terms of going to gyms and engaging with trainers.
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Bob. And in that time, so the median age group in the CBE study was 51 years of age, ranging anywhere from late 20s up to, I believe the oldest participant was 66 or 67 years of age. So we did not have anyone in their 70s in the study. So, very good point. I think, there's opportunities there to see what might be of interest in terms of programming for older adults in particular. Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Any other questions from the chat that I've missed? Kate, anything that I've missed? Or any other folks have questions, you can put on your mic or put it in the chat. The session has generated so much chat discussion, which is great to see.